Thank you. I think we say namaste, but my Indian is finished after that word. Sorry for that. We have 45 minutes, and then I will do my best to have a quick speech and then collect questions from you to answer and to help you out through this design journey. As you can imagine, this is the worst timing in a conference to speak up, because in 1 hour you will go to eat something, your blood sugar is down right now, so you will get angry in a couple of minutes. So I will try to do my best to make the speech entertaining as possible. So we have a quick PR slide. That's me, actually. I failed twice in my whole entrepreneurial spirit. You can see those rest in peace startups. And after that, starting with SHERPA, it became a kind of success story. And I will tell you a lot more about SHERPA. But now I'm acting as the chief design officer of a cryptocurrency company. Again, still leading SHERPA in the design studio. But it became something like a really madness in the last 3 years. A good madness, by the way. And I will share my whole experience with you in this 40 minutes. So this is my team. I'm really proud of them, because it's not a one-man job. Especially if you are in the design business, you have to be sure that you cannot be successful alone. So you have to build a team that will produce and design things that will be usable. So you have to be really good at picking the good guys, especially the ones with good heart, not purely talent, because this is not mathematics. So you have to put your heart as well in what you do, and you have to take care as the leader of all of your teammates during this whole journey. And SHERPA has a really simple formula, and this is the formula. That's how I do my business since 14 years. On the left-hand side, you can see that what we are trying to accomplish, it's a conversion formula. We must convert some of the feelings, some of the habits, or some of the dogmas of users into something better that we find useful for them. So the formula of conversion has two variables: user, that should always be your hero, and the other part is the design. But when I mean design, I never talk about the user interface or any kind of typographic solutions. That is the solution, the hypothesis you come up with for someone who has a pain. So on the right-hand side, we go more deep into design thing, and now we put it in the formula center. And now we have two other variables. So the first one is a hypothesis. That's a structured idea that you think, upon the research you got, that will solve those guys' problems. Again, it's not a user interface. It shouldn't only be an interface, a painting or typographic solution. That's a statement, well-structured statement, and lastly, supported by data. That's the whole thing. That's what I know and what I'm practicing for the last 14 years, and it works. You can complicate it as much as you can, but at the end you will come to that area, and believe in me, if you stick on that, you will not fail. So within the SHERPA's 10-year story, we became a well-known digital experience design studio working for those guys, big guys, and they are distributed all the world. And that's how we managed to work for users that are spread over more than 100 countries, and using the products we created within more than millions of some. And we've been generously awarded by the well-known guys in the industry, not only with websites or mobile apps, but with those kinds of embedded systems like smart TVs, refrigerators, or ovens as well. I'm not an industrial designer, by the way. We always focus on the digital interactions of those gadgets or machines. So, as you can imagine, every refrigerator has a screen, and every oven also has a screen. So, the user first interacts with the system through that screen. So, they need us to come up and solve the problems that they face while interacting with those screens. As I mentioned last year, one of our clients actually, it's a crypto exchange fintech company in Turkey, one of the biggest one. They said that please do not work with the other clients, just work for us. And I said, okay, but if one day you decide that you don't want to work with us, what shall we do? And then they said, okay, let's make this an acquisition, and now SHERPA will be our design studio and you will not work for other clients. Since 1 year, we've been working on their digital products, not only websites and mobile apps, but really complicated stuff on blockchain and custodian wallets and any kind of new thing for a designer that will be a challenge, is our challenge since 1 year. But let me admit, I've been in the business since 2002. I think most of you has the birthday on those days, but we still have problems defining what we do, actually. And if you add really complex new titles like UX designer, information architect, service designer, people have blank faces on their eyes, and they say that, okay, you are going to draw the screens, right? And I will come up to you with some really alive myths that we still face, not only in Turkey, but in the UK as well. And I think that the main idea of my speech, the design ops, is the most promising method to prove the true value of design in an area that we are going to step in, where people will need us a lot. So the first myth comes from the product people, project people, or whatever you call them. They think that we still confuse the developers. We talk a lot. We come up with many artifacts that distract them, and we put new requirements on the table, and that's why they don't like us, and they don't tell this, and they are trying to be gentle with us, but they still live a myth. And the second one comes from the engineers, and they think that we only propose processes that is equal to bureaucracy, and bureaucracy is bad always. And the third one is quite heartbreaking. They think that the UX thing is impractical, and it takes too much time to do research. And why should we do research if we have designers who know everything? They think so, but we don't know anything actually without research. And finally, the QA guys, they think that UI bugs are not real bugs. Okay, they think that functional systems don't have bugs like UI bugs. It's not a bug. So we are still talking to them, then saying no user have no idea about the functional QA test you come up with. They are powerless and unhappy if the system doesn't give a response, and this is through the UI, not from the other parts of the system. And finally, boss thinks that, okay, cut this shit and just give us the design, okay, for God's sake, don't talk too much, just give me the screens. So we are struggling within those myths, and I believe that without talking, we should show more. And because people have no patience at all, so they just want to see something then that they can understand first. Second, if they can understand, they want to contribute on this outcome. So if we come up with really complex things that only we designers understand, they look at it, they find it, okay, it's nice, there is some work done, but I cannot contribute to it. So the outcome of the design professionals should be something that is really understandable, discussable, and contributable. That's how we can collaborate with all the other parts of the product management system. So that is my favorite photo. It's taken by a research actually. This is the outcome of a research we've done for one of the TV manufacturers in Turkey, and instead of giving 100 pages of research outcome, I just show them the left-hand side is your grandmother's remote, and on the right-hand side you can see your mother's remote, how they use it. And please do not try to push us to put lots of button on the remote control, because they don't use it. That's how they understood. And they didn't read the research paper, but they said that, okay, we will follow your way because it's understandable and it's contributable. So while talking about the business logic with the stakeholders, they like to show us lots of presentation, and they want to come up with market researches, how the competitive analysis is done, etc., etc. And we listen to them and we take notes, and then we want to talk about the business logic of the product we are going to design. And this is always the best way, by the way, to come up with a flow that everyone can understand and know nothing detailed. You will see decisions, you know all of those flow design things. You can see where to decide, where there will be standard outcomes and answers, and this is universal. No one should learn something to discuss on such a drawing. So we in SHERPA, after the whole stakeholder collaboration, we always try to put everything down on a flow. This is the business flow, and everyone can put any comment on it. We use a tool called Miro, which is highly collaborative and highly on the cloud. So you can work, not only work simultaneously, you can go home and you can think about it and you can put a comment on it afterwards. But this should be the only truth of reference of truth if you want to talk about business logic with the other partners, especially with the engineers as well. Let me show you some of the other outcomes that I like the most, not from my company, but there's a website called 500 Pixels. It's like a photo platform that you use and you share your photos. So this is the page where no one reads. This is the terms of use. Okay, we never read those pages. You know, we click on them and then we want to go in. But they came up with an idea, a solution to make the users read that page. So on that part, this is the lawyer stuff. I can't understand what it is said there. But they put something else. As you can see, it says that on the left-hand side, basically, we develop a photo community providing services to create on. You don't need to understand that. They gave us a summary of it. So this is the UX side I'm really fond of. Because, okay, the lawyers should put that on the stage. Okay, we know that. But I don't understand. So please make me understand. This is the solution. This is the hypothesis I was talking to you just a couple of minutes ago. Or on the other hand, this is one of our project. We didn't design that. At the beginning, it was something like that. This is a TV, by the way. But as you can imagine, the TVs are smart right now. What I mean smart is it's more connectable to any kind of other device and internet, of course. When the company came in, they said that our screen looks ugly. So please make it pretty. By the way, this was the brief. And the first thing I told them, if it's a screen and if it's a smart screen, how should I know what those icons are meant for? Because it just has titles on them, and some of them don't have. And as you can imagine, this means settings, by the way, as you can see from the icon. But I don't know what the other one is or the next one is. because on the smart TVs, you don't have the hover action, you know? You can't put your hand on the TV. It's only done with a mouse. So what I told them is that with the TV system, TV operating system, it's not the first system interface, your screen. The first system interface is the remote control you keep in your hand. So we have to come up with a solution for that, not only for the screen. So then we make a turn to this. Okay, it's more stylish, I know. But as you can see, we have lots of descriptive areas where we grouped all the functions of the TV, and we changed the remote control from a 55 button remote control to only 5 button remote control. But we could do that because we placed all the navigation that is doable horizontally or vertically. That's how we removed all of those buttons and put only 4 arrows, up, down, left, right, and one just click, as you can imagine from the Apple TV's remote control. So it should be easy, usable from a nanny who has 80 years old to a small kid who is 8 years old. So this is the thing that I look forward to when we try to come up with solution. But if we want to understand the design ops that I'm really keen on, we should know what is DevOps. Is there anyone who is familiar with this word, DevOps? DevOps means development operations, and design ops means design operations. Why should we emphasize the thing ops? Because, I will talk to you, everything started at 1999. So that was early days where this guy wasn't aware of the hair transplantation yet. Okay. Okay. And Google was still in beta. Yes, they were in beta on those days. And this was the most popular cell phone used. I used it. It was really fantastic on those days. But this was old days. But on old days, this is an histogram I liked a lot. The Agile Manifesto was born. It was on 2001, where 17 guys from Utah came up with a manifesto saying that that's enough. We are not doing software like this. We will change the manners because you want too much from us in a too little period of time. And what we are practicing, what they were practicing on those days was the waterfall system. This means big design upfront. You think all of the things, design all of the things, and then go to manufacturing or engineering, then go to test. They said that it's not working. We should be more agile, and because the need for software engineers risen like rockets on those days, they said that this way it would not work. We should go to another methodology where we will do lots of iterations and lots of outcomes to test within a small period of time. Right. And that's how DevOps has came to our table. And since then, since 21 years, people is talking about Agile. And Agile became like the adjective you can put anywhere if you want to push someone to produce fast. This should be Agile, this should be Agile. But what I like in Agile, beside all the other guys, it's the emphasis they put on the values, not the practices. Agile tries to tell us a story about the values, not the practices, but we are still, I think, not good at understanding values they proposed us. So DevOps has arisen in 2009 after the Agile Manifesto took place for more than 7 years actually, because people didn't get it or didn't want to use it in the software engineering. But when the systems the cloud systems needed more system engineers. And those guys didn't find a way to talk to the normal engineers. They should come up with another manifesto to emphasize that those values were not accepted yet. And this guy especially, he's the father of DevOps, the name father of the DevOps actually. He went to a conference and he saw the guys from Flickr saying that they were doing 10 commits, 10 deploys, sorry, in just one day, and it was a miracle on those days. They went next to them and they had a discussion about it, and Patrick, he said, how can you do this? They just said, we put emphasis not only on the systems and the engineers, but the operations that are binding all of those people's procedures and tools. So he went back home in Belgium and he launched an event, and while trying to find the name, because in Twitter hashtags had a limit on those days, he didn't want to write development operation, he just write DevOps, and that's how we have DevOps right now. And if we don't understand DevOps, we cannot mention something like design ops. That's why I wanted to share this summary with you. So you can't see, but they say that it's not a title, it's not a person or a team, it's not something miraculous, but it's a movement targeting a cultural change, how we engineer things. By the way, on the left-hand side of the slides, as you can imagine, I put an icon where you can take the photos. So if you see that icon right now, you can take the photos. It's like the summary of a Hallmark presentation. And since then, we within the DevOps, we try to tell the story upon the tools, the softwares, etc. And as you can see, there are lots of good brands. We use most of them, but I should emphasize again, that's not the tools that enable us to do our business. They are just kind of facilitators that for what we do, especially for the designers. Like Figma is the goddess of productivity, but it's not actually. In 2 years, probably we will not talk about Figma, because last 2 years we were talking about Sketch, and it was like, oh, Sketch, and now we say Figma, Figma, Figma. It's just a tool. So it facilitates, but it will not be with us forever. So DevOps rules says that collaboration should be the one and only king, and all the stakeholders should be included in the process, not just sit on the table. They should be included. And errors is considered as one of the essential parts of what we do. We must learn from them, but we shouldn't do the same mistakes again and again. That's something called insanity. Let's not try that. And blaming game should be out of the table, because we do lots of problematic things while we produce. So if we start blaming each other, especially in DevOps, where you can do it easily, there is no winner on this game. And DevOps concerns everyone, not only engineers, developers, but system owners, QA people, business units. So it should be taken seriously by all the other business units. But what about the design? Okay, we talked a lot about the engineers. I think our milestone is 2012, where the smartphone usage in US has the majority of the population. Let's think about it. Why? Because there was a major and mainstream device started to be used by the majority of the population. So there is another screen, another user habit, another thing that we are not used to do. And we should adapt actually, because on those days, if you had finished your website, it was done. Now you have to do the desktop website, you have to do the mobile website, you have to design your mobile application, and maybe a wearable gadget also. So you have to do a lot for the guys who are mobile. I'm really angry when someone says that, what are you going to do for mobile? I always ask, what is mobile? It's not the device, it's the user who is mobile. So With a laptop also, you can be mobile. So you have to work on the network efficiency, internet usage, what kind of bandwidth they have. So if you look at the user, you should ask yourself, is he mobile or is he still sitting somewhere? So this is the fraction you should focus on when you want to analyze the user. Let me look at the timing. Okay. And people are started to think about new kinds of questions like, what are we going to do in so many channels? We have so many other channels. And what are we going to do with the new breed of the competencies we are looking for? Let's say that, how are we going to do, how are we going to name a guy who is designing the information? The information architect title arises from those questions. Or how are we going to name the guy who is doing research only for the UX process of our whole product design system? So lots of questions started to come up from the other stakeholders. So I think on those days, 2012, we started to build the foundation of design operations. So on those days, everybody was focused on one thing, delivery. And Agile was adopted by the engineers, so they were also coming up with lots of iterations, and many cycles of outcomes has started. So this was expected from the designers as well. So the main focus was still on the delivery, and the process was flowing like this. Something was shining up from the administration, then going to marketing or sales, then coming to design, then the engineering, then the production. It was waterfall. But this guy, his name is Dave Malouf. He's the name founder of design operations. He said that, is this the way we should follow up? And he said that, why don't we put design in the center of all things and teach the other people that design is a way to solve problems, not coming up with interaction solutions, visual screens, or typographic solutions. So he managed to position design in the center of whole, and that's how he thought, and I think he is right, adds value to business with the means that design come up with. So he said that we should have a two-cycled production lane who are going within the same range, and maybe at the end, he said on those days, maybe we can have a 3-track cycle like this, where we can do all of those things simultaneously. While we are working with the engineers, we can focus on the discovery of the question, are we designing the right thing? And some other guys can work on the upper part, understanding the user simultaneously. When you write it down like this, it looks like impossible, but now we are in the middle of doing it and practicing in whole the design process thing. So this is another summary of it. Design operations mainly focus on 3 parts: business operations, people operations, and workflow operations. That says something like, are you going to found another company within the same company if you want to take all the responsibility of those things within the design department? I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying the design operation is not only based on finding or crafting a methodology for producing outcomes of design, but it should include all the other aspects as well. Like, we should do our recruiting by ourselves, we should do our buying process or the legal stuff by ourselves. We can, of course, get help from the other business units, but if they let us manage, we will come up with a more value-added outcome. So this is another version of it, and some of the titles are being used right now within the big fives. They have now director of design ops in most of the Silicon Valley companies, and we have not only chief design officers, but like principal designers and director of design ops sharing the same competencies and rights, and especially power as well. So those tracks are going simultaneously within the productions of design outcomes. So the idea is that going behind or beyond, let's say, crafting interfaces and focusing on sustainability, quality assurance, process design, and resource planning at the same time with the guys who they think that they only do design stuff. We can do all of those managerial activities within a umbrella called design operations, and we can be really, really successful while doing it. So another summary, and briefly said, we should focus on something because focus shapes our reality. And on the right-hand side, I believe that normally it's a fact, by the way. A chair has three stores, you know, and it's really similar to the idea of evolution. So let's put it that way. The management, technology, and design are the foundations of whole products. It's the similar everywhere, and design operations should focus on all of them if we wanted to be successful. Okay, it's not easy, as I know. Okay, I know, but since 9 years, we are telling our clients, we are confessing to them that we spend your time, only 20% of it is gone to design the screens you like the most. We spend your time that we are paid on the things, those operations that I talked to you a couple of minutes ago. So you should put your focus as well in your company on that areas. So in Sherpa, we first wrote all those down in huge documents and put it online. It's now open to anyone who wants to get any help from it on handbook.sherpa.digital. So we made it open culture idea so that maybe we can help the other guys as well. Secondly, we made it 100% transparent, our recruitment process, because we put really good effort on those recruitment workflow, and we also invited all the teammates within the company to have a sight on the recruitment process, because those guys will be working with them, not with only the boss. And secondly, we draw whole the service design we produce, not only for our system users, teammates, for the clients as well, and the stakeholders. And as you can remember, this was an outcome where everyone can put a comment on it. So we could be discussing all the details of the system. As the DevOps, DesignOps is also a cultural change, and it allows our competencies, designer competencies like empathy mapping, information and interaction design, to help the companies problem-solving areas. And I think it increases the product life cycle of all the products we are contributing in and adds value at the beginning. So what's the recipe? Final slides. We should create a leadership within any kind of company who uses design as major problem-solving tactic. And we shouldn't fear about being autonomous. And if there is a leader for the design ops, it should have a seat on the management to have a word on any kind of decision-making process that is viable. And thank you for listening to me. If I think I have 5 minutes more, if you have any kind of questions that I can answer, please. Okay, let's try with the microphone. Good afternoon. Uh, I think it's not open. I can hear it. Yeah. Okay. I'm a huge fan of getting rid of the details. So lean UX is some kind of my way of doing things, actually. But time to time, if we put lots of difference on the methodology we use while talking about it, the guys who are working with us, product people, engineering guys, or any kind of business units, they start to fear about it. So we do lean UX actually without saying that we do it. So I just want to say that we should follow the principles of Agile Manifesto. We should do lots of iterations, and lots of iterations help us coming up with more testable outcomes regarding UX. So I'm a huge fan of lean UX, and what I do is not emphasizing the lean part a lot while doing it. Thank you. Thank you. Please. Thank you.
I'd love to know how you plug into the development process. So does your design team, for example, use the agile project tracking tools, and how do you ensure they don't get overwhelmed with all of the planning and all of that?
Thank you. I think we couldn't find the best answer yet for this question. We are still trying. What I believe in, if we are starting a project with any kind of other competencies like engineers, product people, other business units, the first thing we should do is to build a common language before stepping into putting milestones, requirements, etc. When I see a problematic project that we are contributing, always the problem arises from the communication part between the team members. So what we do actually, we sit on the table with all the partners and then try to build a language. It starts, all the culture starts with the language, and we, let's say, build up a dictionary of the items we will use throughout the whole project. And we try to choose the methodology we are going to follow up. Like, are we going to do Scrum or Kanban? We should decide on that collectively. And we try to get lessons from the sprints we run after each other. And we try to never skip the retrospective part of what we do. And because they believe that still, most of them, design is only responsible for the visual interface, we try to teach them when we start dealing with the information design, you should be on the table because you have to do your domain mapping in your technology side at that stage, not when we come up with the screens. So inviting people earlier as soon as possible, having a common language is our tools right now. Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
You completely missed the part about negotiating design process and bureaucracy.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that we really want to hear.
I'm a really patient guy, and most of my teammates can't believe in how patient I can be. I'm always keen on discussing things, negotiating, but what I believe, you should have a limit. So once you negotiate, you give something, but you have to take something back as well. While negotiating, if I see the other party never giving something and never wanting to discuss, I get up from the table and I say that you can work with someone else. But believe in me, you will never be happy because you don't want to talk. You just want to give orders to someone, and it's not collaboration. You should find soldiers for you who will come up with designs that you would like to do. So it's not a collaborative environment, so we shouldn't be working with us. There should be a limit to that negotiation process. That's my way, actually. Thank you.
So that brings up to a wrap.